Maestro Chapovsky, now long-limbed and healed from his injuries, watched as the Symphony of Flesh was slowly picked apart by the swarm of Drukhari vessels. The once grand flagship of Chapovsky's rival, Damanus Brahms, was now in flames, riddled with every depraved munition that the Dark Eldar could throw at it. The vessel sank until it crashed into one of the jagged towers of High Komorah below.
Well, it appears that everything is turning up, Chapovsky. Those meddlesome orcs are dead. The Symphony of Flesh, well, let's say it's less of a symphony now and more of an experimental atonal one-man show. No, I haven't forgotten about you, Jerome, though I'm hardly happy to have you back. Archibald, by the way, thank you for taking the initiative and sewing Jerome's mouth and eyelids shut. I've been so upset recently, and I've been taking it out on you, and that was not fair. You're right, it has been a long day. We should get back to deviant debaucheries. I have some new inspiration for my next piece. I'm thinking of calling it The Gouging Gavotte. Wait, what are those ships doing?
In the skies over Komorah, the various Kabbalite ships began to jerk and pitch this way and that, some of them gaining or losing altitude very rapidly. The Orcs, following Redbrain's scheme, fired every boarding torpedo on the Symphony of Flesh in all directions, targeting as many of the ships as they could. Most were filled to the brim with Gretchen and Squigs. Many of the torpedoes were shot down before they could reach their targets, but the ones that hit, the Gretchen immediately began to crawl into the various nooks and crannies and ventilation systems in the Drukhari vessels, breaking every single complicated-looking piece of technology they could find. Anti-grav calibrators were destroyed, navigation was shut down, and general havoc was wrought among the fleet. But there were a large number of torpedoes that were launched at one of the smaller ships in particular, the Skinning Blade. These torpedoes contained Warboss Gitslaya, Redbrain, Poodle, and all of the rest of the proper Orcs. As the missiles slammed into the side of the ship and penetrated deep into its hull, Warboss Gitslaya tore the hatch off the torpedo as his boys poured out into the Skinning Blade.
To me, boys! Kill them all! Yeah, wait! We need one of them to fly us out of here! Keep the pilot alive! Kill them almost all!
The great Warboss marched forward, using the torpedo hatch as a shield and mobile cover for him and his boys. The Kabbalite warriors slipped out from behind cover to take graceful shots at the Orc mob with their splinter rifles. Shards ricocheted off the makeshift shield as the Orcs pushed forward. Kabbalites used hit-and-run tactics to try to stay clear of the Orcs, but the naked Orc aggression, and the fact that the Orcs were utilizing dangerous Dark Eldar weaponry, which was a lot less satisfying for the Orcs to use as they had puny Daka, but it was much more accurate as they had no kickback to throw off the Orcs' aim. Numerous Orcs were downed by the stealthy lightning strikes, but once the Orcs got into close combat, the Kabbalites were cut to ribbons. The ship was not an especially large one, and the Orcs had the advantage of surprise and, for once, they outnumbered the Drukhari. This advantage was increased when a number of Kabbalites abandoned ship using escape pods, valuing their own lives over the loyalty to the Cabal. On the bridge, Archon Calathor demanded an explanation.
What in the hells is going on here?
Orcs, my Archon! The ship is under attack by Orcs!
Orcs? I thought the old homunculus had just finally lost his mind. How? How could they? Never mind. I'll deal with them myself. The incubi will come with me. We'll put an end to this nonsense once and for all.
Calathor marched out to face the Orc warboss with his honor guard. The Orcs had breached the ship at several points, and squigs were running throughout all the corridors, overwhelming the warriors. Garbog was a young, ambitious orc who sprouted a little after Gitslaya arrived in the Bone Middens. He started whipping the boys into shape. He was a bit on the runty side to be a true knob, but he was ambitious, and he led his mob of boys through the ship, trying to meet up with Gitslaya.
Smash through every door, kill the pansies inside and keep looking. We're gonna find the boss.
Archon Calathor rounded the corner and approached the orc mob. The Archon and the Incubi were armed with cruel blades.
All right, some pansies that want a real scrap. No dodging and hiding. Come on, boys, let's crump these pointy-headed gits. Ugh, filth.
Garbog charged forward with his boys, waving their scrap choppers wildly.
Whoa!
The Archon and his Incubi moved like dancers, elegantly moving with perfect precision through the corridor. Each step, each movement was perfectly efficient. They dodged the wild brute force attacks of the orcs, and with quick, silent strikes, they dispatched each one, neatly slicing through flesh and bone like it was nothing. The robust orc physiology was nothing to the power fields of the Incubi claves. Within seconds, Garbog stood alone, hacking at Calathor with tremendous force. The Archon marveled at the orc's tenacity and tirelessness. He'd seen so many Monkey despair when they swung their ugly primitive weapons at him and struck nothing but air. It was the despair that appeared on their faces when they realized they were facing an opponent beyond their ken. He savored that look. Sadly, the orc showed no recognition of his own doom or any kind of fear. Admirable in its own very stupid kind of way. Calathor grew bored with Garbog, ducked beneath his blow, and stepped up into the orc and with one neat swing separated Garbog's head from his neck, which rolled across the deck. With no more orcs in the hallway, the Archon pressed onwards. He would kill every greenskin on his ship, and then likely have to have the whole thing fumigated to get rid of the stench and spores. He rounded a corner, and at the end of the hallway was the great war boss Gitslaya and his mob.
That one looks fancy. Hey, you! Once we crump your mates, you're flying us out of this commie raw.
Calathor gave a mocking salute to the barbarian warlord.
You are welcome to try, orc. Careful, boss. These pansies look like they've got some flashy gubbins.
I didn't get to be boss by being careful, Redbrain.
Maybe if you was more careful, you wouldn't be in commie raw.
Ow! Shut up! Come on then, pansy. By chopper or claw, you're going down.
Enough prattle. My clave thirsts for your blood.
The two combatants charged one another. Both the boys and the Incubi hung back. They knew this was going to be a proper boss fight. No man do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Gitslaya Escapes Komara. If you like what you heard, please leave a like and comment so that you can help others escape from the cesspit of leather fetish sweat goblins that is Komara. If you are not yet subscribed, we are so close to 10,000 subs, I would really appreciate it if you help me reach that goal. If you would like to support me further, you can do so via PayPal, or you can join me on Patreon. Both of those are linked below. And finally, if you are confused and have no idea what's going on, you can watch the series from the beginning by clicking on the playlist, which should be appearing on screen right now. Thank you all very much. No Man out.